Well, it was an interesting one there in Cincinnati, almost deja vu for us. I'm here, Joshua. This is Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And everyone abandoned me this week, but Jon from RFK Refugees is thankfully here with me to break down the game. Thanks for joining, Jon.
Very happy to be here to discuss all of the goals that we saw tonight.
There were balls in the back of the net, but unfortunately, there was almost as many sending off for DC United, and it'll be interesting to kind of see. We complained kind of earlier in the season about Hernan's, I guess, lack of adaptability in those situations on the road when you have a point. Tonight, he had it adapted in a weird way to losing players when maybe when there was no points, or maybe when we could have gotten all three. But it was tough. What was your big takeaway from the match, if you have one, right off the top of your head?
Yeah, I would say looking at the lineup, understanding the injuries, opponent aside, you want to beat FC Cincinnati even at home. That's what you want, just based on FC Cincinnati's continued being very bad reputation. It all precedes itself. You should walk in with 3 points. With a team that's even 70% full strength, you probably will do that. They should have gotten lucky once or twice. With, like you said, there were exactly as many balls in the net by DC United as there were red cards. It's the exact same number. If either one of those worked out, 3 points, and we're laughing all the way back home. But real kind of weird game, real choppy. Cincinnati just owning possession. DC United under 70% pass completion. 2 red cards. Yeah, it was just a really weird one. You got to be happy with a point, all those things considered, even though it was not very fun to watch most part.
Yeah, I thought we were kind of due for a firecracker of a match, but facing Lucho for the first time since he's come back into MLS, and I thought there might be some hearts on the sleeve in that situation, and then the lineups come out and you see Reyna and Skundrich who have been good. I particularly love Skundrich's effort that he's put in, but those guys haven't scored for DC United yet, and so it's almost not surprising that we didn't score. But considering all the opponents, the flows, this team, how bad Cincy are, again, we were hoping for 3 and unfortunately didn't get it tonight.
Yeah, I'm loath to jump too soon on a player coming back from a long-term injury, but Yordi Reyna has not impressed me ever. There was one game in his first season before he committed a foul on somebody and injured them, and ever since then the dynamism from that game has not been
folks,
repeated.
We'll get started soon. Hernan followed by Steve. Thank you all.
As we hear Zach cut in, we have the post game on the deck for you guys, so you'll hear Zach and then hopefully Hernan in a minute. But I think you're right. I think it's hard for tonight too, because there's definitely moments where all of DC United's attack was Yordi Reyna. He was just running, and sometimes balls were coming in from very far away. And he maybe, I don't know. I don't want to.
Who's the guy? I can't remember now. I used to make fun of him incessantly. Former DC United forward, came from Philly, was offside all the time.
Oh,
I believe he's Colombian.
I think you're thinking of Jairo Arrieta.
No, that's Costa Rican. There's another player.
He was also offside all the time.
Also offside, but maybe someone in the chat will. We talked about him very, very frequently. Anyway, that's a problem with him. He's a very, even when he's got the line in front of him and he should be able to stay on side, he just cannot help himself.
Yeah, the first goal, both goals actually were called back because Yordi was offside. The first one was kind of tough, but the second one was, and even Dave said on the broadcast, and this is one of Sam's favorite sayings, so I'll have to repeat it. It's like you got to count there, you got to count how many men you are in front of, and it's tough, and it's especially tough because he hasn't made that breakthrough for DC United, and it was all kind of put on him tonight. I thought the hold up play was. It's probably not his strong suit, and it was something he was asked to do tonight. In the absence of Kamara and Roberta, you kind of had to expect that would go down, but it kind of hurt to see it out there.
Right, not a 9, clearly. Obviously needs a 9 to link off of, but I'm trying to think in a situation where you have a full choice lineup, how he breaks through, and I don't necessarily think he would. And he's making $800,000 a year, I believe, is the number.
Yeah.
So when you look at allocation of your of a very limited roster budget,
That's a big
I don't
chunk.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd spend all of that there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a large number for a forward on a team. Yeah, and he hasn't scored, but I know there was
Forward that can't be a 9, that
Yeah.
needs to be a support player, that has a trouble staying on sides. I don't know, man.
And we traded for him. Like we
traded for him.
gave up assets. But yeah, I know there was some weird. Like I know Vancouver were playing some of it at first, but I think we re-signed him, so I don't know if that carries through. There's probably MLS is not very.
We had to give him a kicker when he signed not an extension, but the option year was picked up. They got more money back from us. If we either sold him or renewed his contract, they got money. So Vancouver made out like bandits. I think on the initial, I think we may have sent them 4 soccer balls and some Labats. I think that's all we always sent them to get the trade happen. But I think they definitely made out on it. I'm pretty sure. But if we didn't have him, we'd have nobody. We'd have Eric Sorga, who came back from Lyon United after a very brief appearance there, gave us about 15 minutes of pretty poor hold-up play. And that's about all that happened there. There's a lot of people that love Eric Sorga, and I know there's some of them are our listeners, and I'm just like, guys, I know he scored against New York. That was cool.
Yeah.
It was inflection. Let's all take this for what it is. Like, he scored a lot of goals in Estonia. It's not necessarily translating, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think you're right. I don't want to harp too much on the forwards. We can definitely break that down later. It's one of our favorite topics here on Tried and True. I thought the back line was surprisingly good. There's been an unreal amount of rotation back there, and I don't know if I've lost count. I used to try to keep count of the different combinations, who had played with who, but it's been too much now. And if it's not the first game with these 3, it's the second or third or something like that. And they did. I mean, it wasn't easy. And Cincy aren't dynamic despite how much money they paid, but they kept a clean sheet. Bill's now 7th in MLS history. I don't know if he's ever going to catch Ramondo. I looked that number up. It's absolutely ridiculous.
He'll be playing to be very old. If that's maybe he will do that. Who knows?
I'd love it. I think he will catch his goalkeeping coach very soon. I think he's single digits or about that away from catching Thornton, which will be. I hope DC United are ready to put out content on that, and I hope it's funny and beautiful, and they should both be proud because Zack has certainly helped Bill along the way. I assume he's been here for so long, and Bill deserves the credit. We probably need to take a minute and appreciate how good Zack Thornton was, and appreciate that his work he's done on this team for DC United all these years.
Bill, chronically underappreciated because he's been so consistently good. Once he became good, he just stayed the same level of good. He wasn't always good. He didn't start good. There were lots of he was extremely error prone when he started. His distribution was horrible. He got red cards all the time, and it's a learning curve. You don't normally start in the league as an 18-year-old starting goalkeeper. That's almost unheard of. It almost never happens. So you knew how much Bill Hamid meant to this team when he went to Denmark, and then they were horrible. And they had they had Onstad and they had Steve Clark. Steve Clark, who has had a career since then and has done fine, but neither of those players were able to really fill his shoes while he was gone. He came back, slipped right in like he never left. So, you're right. You have to give it up to Bill. It's so sad that he gets not the respect he deserves because he's been so consistently good on a team that has consistently underachieved and hasn't really been in the spotlight or winning trophies since he's been here, unfortunately.
And I love that we're giving Bill his props. I hate that we're back kind of talking about that because it felt very much like old DC United. Like Bill saved us tonight. There was a couple chances where Cincy should have scored and they just didn't have the quality. I don't know. Bill just stopped them, and it's everything I love. I kind of want to touch on a thing you talked about: a teenage homegrown player getting a red card. A learning experience for Moses Neiman tonight, I think. Do you have any?
Yeah, man. 50th minute, you don't need to make that tackle. Like you have the game state says like, all right, man, you're last man back. You see that quite obviously. You made a mistake to put yourself in a bad spot. Don't compound the error. Did they get out with 1 point? They did. And that's you. I don't think you would have expected that when you went down in the 50th minute, but that foul was not necessary. And obviously I think that's what Hernan will have told him when he came off. They were having a little bit of conversation. Like, This is not the 91st minute, man. We can, we had some time here to if they did score, but I'm more worried about the fact that means we don't have them for the next game. Yeah. And it's 2 games for a straight red, right? Ooh. 1 for a second red.
I think you might be right.
If it is, that's real bad on a team that's has whole like bailing wire these rosters together. I think you or I may be in contention to make the bench for the next game. It's looking. Defensive midfield is probably not my best position, but you do what you must.
Yeah,
on. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, might start doing some laps around Audi Field just to be seen.
Cardio.
let them know I'm available. But yeah, I think it is a learning moment for Neiman, and it's tough, and we are thin. And yes, I'm sure Losada was like, "Hey, the ball was rolling out. You were good. We didn't."
Hey, coach, can you hear me?
Oh, it looks like we're gonna transition to the post.
How are you? Good.
Let's see or not.
I'm good.
Okay, coach. Before we do questions, any opening remarks from you?
I can start telling that the effort of the whole group today was huge. I can only be proud of the fighting spirit of this team, that it doesn't stop surprise me. No matter who's on the field, young, old, experienced, new players, old players, they are all sweating the shirt until the very last second. And when you see the circumstances today, taking a point on the road, 11 against 9 is fantastic. And knowing once again that there was another game that, as long as it was 11 against 11, we were the better team with the better opportunities. No doubt about that. And of course, the red card of Moses changed it all. But okay, pleased with I'm very happy with the point. But again, we lose 2 players now for Wednesday, so I think I'm gonna have to put the cleats on and be on the bench for Wednesday.
We'll go to Steve Goff.
Hernan, what did you, up until Moses's red card, what did you like about what your team was doing out
there? I think the first half was very intense. We scored 2 goals, both, I think, correctly on the offside. But we were dangerous. We were trying to press high because we knew Cincinnati is a team with a Dutch coach who really likes to build up from behind, and they take a lot of risk. And that's why we put a lot of energy on trying to press high and force them to make mistakes. And in general, I think Bill only had a cross on the second half, on the second post, from a corner or a cross. But we were a lot more dangerous. And Steve, don't forget all the players we are missing today. We didn't play with a true and real number 9. We have a lot of players that are not 100%, like Kevin, like Drew Skondrich, and like Steven Beerbaum coming back from an injury. And whatever it takes, we make all our efforts and we run until the very first second, even though we were on many moments. I think all those 50-50 decisions were for Cincinnati, but that can happen. Today was for them. I hope in the future it will be for us. But I think in general, Steve, when the game was 11-11, I was happy with the moments of pressure, happy with the moments that we were falling in a block, and we were playing vertical with Kevin and with Jordi. That was the plan. I think Jordi and Kevin did it fantastic. Sometimes even holding the ball against 2-3 defenders, and the whole team show once again a lot of character and a lot of balls to take a point on the road under difficult circumstances.
We'll go back to Steve.
What did you think of Moses's red card? Was it the right call? Did he do the right thing, seeing that a breakaway was about to unfold? What were your thoughts on that?
I didn't see the replay. Some people say it's correct. I think the distance to go to the goal was still very long, and there were players coming back. So it's not that the player was 100% going 1v1 with Bilamid, but we don't have to forget Moses is 17 years old. Right now, he already started more games than he never did before, or at least last season. He's getting a lot of minutes, him and Kevin, and it's part of a process that they're going to make mistakes. So I take this as a part of the process and something that, of course, can happen when you play with young guys who deserve to be playing.
We'll go to Jason Anderson next. Jason, go ahead.
Hi, Hernan. Thanks for speaking with us. I wanted to ask a little more about the performance of the front line. As you mentioned, no out-and-out number 9 up there. You might have known coming into this game that was going to be the case for a few days and had time to prepare for it. How do you think the group did, especially with Reyna having to play this, sort of out of position for him, this sort of role?
No, I didn't have time to prepare because Camara was out 1 or 2 days ago. So we were expecting that he was ready for this game. He has a concussion from a ball who hit his face. And at the same time, I saw Bukska from New England having a very serious concussion the week before, but still playing today. So protocols are different. The feelings of the players are different. And unlucky for us, Camara was not ready. So I didn't have time to prepare, to be honest. And in record time, we didn't have a plan B that at this time is already a plan C or E with all the players we are missing and still work. So I'm very proud of the efforts Jordi, Kevin, Drew Skandrich and the whole crew was doing, even playing sometimes in positions where they're not used to it. Jordi did it great.
One more question. We'll do Mario Amaya. Mario.
Hola Hernán, solo quiero preguntar cómo crees cómo hizo el equipo hoy, especialmente jugando con 10 hombres después del minuto 52 con la expulsión de Moses. ¿Cómo crees que hizo individualmente cada jugador las cosas que hicieron bien para neutralizar a jugadores como Lucho Acosta y Brenner en Cincinnati?
No, individualmente no me gusta hablar. Creo que todo el equipo lo hizo de manera fantástica. Cuando pasamos a jugar con 10, cambiamos en lugar de 5 defensores, jugamos con 4 y Julian Gressel era más un mediocampista. Así que pasamos a jugar 4-3-2 y luego, bueno, Julian se quedó sin energía y volvimos a la línea de 5 cuando ingresó Chris Odoy, porque por la banda izquierda con los 2 chicos argentinos nos estaban generando mucho peligro y Andy necesitaba un poco de ayuda, así que todos trabajaron muy fuerte, todos estuvieron dispuestos a correr ese metro extra que se necesita para complementar el hecho de que está jugando con 11. Así que muy agradecido y muy orgulloso y muy contento con el esfuerzo que hicieron los chicos jugando casi todo el segundo tiempo con 10 hombres, cuando Cincinnati la verdad que no pudo generar mucho peligro y aún así con 10 jugadores tuvimos oportunidades de contragolpe con Jordi, con Kevin. Así que bueno, una lástima porque creo que en un partido 11 contra 11 hoy nos podríamos haber llevado los 3 puntos.
Coach, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, bye.
That was DC United's head coach Hernan Losada at the mic, and as always, hits hearts on the sleeve and telling it how it is. Again, we hear this theme, which I don't know if it was there in the beginning of the season, but he talked about the fight in the team and that he appreciated everyone. And I'd love to hear it because I hope everyone is buying it. It seems everyone is bought in on the system and everyone's bought in on the commitment that you have to play the way that Hernan's asking them to play. But that's great to hear. Did you have any big takeaways from that one, John? Oh, I think I got you muted. Here we go. You're back.
How about now? Yeah. So the thing that was interesting to me was Ola Kamara has a concussion and doesn't feel comfortable playing, but Adam Buksa has a concussion and played. So that apparently the concussion protocols are different by player and team. I thought that was an interesting answer by him that I think people will probably pay a little attention to.
And we might have to get our popcorn out and wait and see if there's any articles on MLSsoccer.com on Monday, or there's a investigation from the MLS board.
Do we think that's a shot? So I can't decide. I think it's a shot against New England not following the protocols. It's not a shot against Ola.
Oh, no.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
I think there's been a couple times, and it's we've talked at length. I'm sure you guys have hit it at RFK about foreign coaches coming into this league. They always have a hard time, and maybe it's because we do stuff weird here, or maybe we're not as established as maybe the Belgian league or these other leagues. But I've heard him say a couple things, and I think that's what he was getting at here, is that the rules in MLS, they got to be, maybe they're not up to his standard. And I think there's a room for a discussion there. It'll be interesting to see if there's anything, any review about Busquets playing tonight.
Probably won't be. I think he's right in that the rules are, particularly the concussion rules, right? I think that's very, very loose. I think they're tight when they want to be, but as soon as any player pushes against the restrictions, they're like, all right, you can play.
Yeah.
You shouldn't play, but you can play if you want. It's fine.
A Bruce Arena-led team bending the rules.
Right.
We've benefited from it before, but it's very believable. A couple other things that he said, and I wanted to bring this up, and I hope we get enough time. But talking about the red card, and that's part of the process. You can't give that many minutes. Well, you can, and you maybe expect. But you also have to expect that that's going to happen. You're going to get mistakes from a teenage midfield player. That's so much responsibility for a teenager. I was doing dumb stuff when I was 17, not leading in the midfield for a professional football team. And so, yeah, I like it. I like the approach. Hopefully, coming of, they put his head on Moses' head and gave him some wisdom. Hopefully that all works out and Moses is able to grow from this and build off of it.
I think similar to 2019, the team finds itself in a position where they don't have a choice on some of these young players. Kevin, they have a choice. Kevin has earned his way in there. Moses has played well, but I think if Felipe was playing at his pre-injury level, I think Moses would find it more challenging to get on the field. So that's part of it. So just like in 2019, where as Ben Olsen was on his way out, the young players were playing a lot because of injuries, but also because what else am I going to try at this point? we can't win. Let's just try it. So he's in a position right now where he's got to play some youth in certain spots. They are going to make mistakes. I think that the big thing with him is that
hey guys, Steve is just finishing up in the ice bath. He'll be out of this shortly.
Sorry, some great insight there.
Yeah, this is an interesting. It's like the control room talks to you in the middle of your thought. Anyway, Moses. I think the challenge for Moses is that it is up and down for him right now, whereas Kevin has sort of evened out. He has a very predictable from game to game performance, which is why he's doing well, which is why he's getting call ups and scoring goals. Moses, I think he'll have a great pass. He'll have a great defensive play, but I think the peaks and valleys are a little bit too variant, similar to Donovan Pines, I think, with a lot of his games where consistency at a 7.5 to 8 is hard to find, where he'll have 8 performances and then he'll make a 5 or a 6 point mistake. And then you're sort of, at the 7.5, 7 spots. So that's my read on both those players.
I think you're right there. And it's kind of the Pines equivalency is really good. I like that one. And yeah, there was highs and lows in this match. He almost scored his first goal, and we probably were speaking a completely different tune.
Yep.
Because maybe we're one up. We're not pushing as high on that Gressel free kick or whatever happened until it lead to Moses being the last defender. Was that there was some talk?
Hey, Steve, all good. Can you hear me?
Oh, we're gonna switch over to Steve Verbo.
All right, folks, we'll jump in. Steve Goff, go ahead.
Describe what it was like for you guys once Moses was sent off and the defensive concentration and work that you guys needed to do down the stretch.
Yeah, obviously, it was unfortunate to happen that early in the second half, but I thought the guys dug in and we played a solid defensive game and everyone was focused the entire time. We had to switch a little bit formations here and there to kind of counterbalance their overloads on our right side, their left side. So I thought we did a good job. Guys stayed tuned in the whole time and kind of knew what the game needed at that point. Once we went down to 10 men, and at that point it was to make sure that we secure a point, and then if we could nick one kind of late, great. But once we went down 10 men, it was kind of all right. Let's get a point on the road.
We'll go to Jason Anderson.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for speaking with us tonight. I wanted to ask a little about the, you kind of have mostly been very high press, very aggressive all year. Tonight you had to play with like a lower line of contention, a little lower press, deeper in the field anyway. I wanted to know how you felt the group did playing out of that approach as opposed to the normal look.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the game, right, and the personnel in the game, and we kind of, I didn't think we were at our best in the first half, possession-wise. I thought we could have done better. Could have been a little bit more secure with the ball and kind of play more in their half. We didn't really have much of that. It was more, transition counterattacking from our mid to low block. And to be fair, we had a couple good chances that were called back from offsides, but it wasn't sharp enough in the first half for us, I think. And we knew that coming in at half, but being 0-0 on the road going to halftime, we were okay with that, and we felt like there were chances out there in the second half. But we went down to 10 men, and guys, we kind of buckled in and knew what we were in for the rest of the half.
We'll go to Jose Umania.
Hey, just wanted to know where you feel the team is now that you guys have a match coming up Wednesday, another one on Sunday. Where do you feel the team is mentally and physically to prepare for now another stretch of 3 matches in 10 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing is that you don't have really much time to reflect on this game, and you kind of move on to the next one, and you just kind of get in a rhythm of the next game's coming up, and then you focus on, now we got Columbus on Wednesday on the road. So I enjoy it. You don't have too much time to think and stop and, think about, games past or whatever. So it's just moving on to the next one. We got a good group of guys. Everyone's going to be used. It's, it's a tough stretch. We got Wednesday and then Sunday. So, we're looking at Wednesday right now on the road, and it's a hard place to play and a new stadium. So, we got to, be ready to go there and pick up some points.
Steve, that's it, brother. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, guys.
That was DC United Steve Birnbaum on the line, and yeah, I almost completely forgot that there was two more games this week. Basically, we got Columbus midweek and then Montreal, all in that middle tier. And John, we might actually have to go start warming up.
We might. I don't know. The bus from Loudon is going to be filled with dudes to be cannon fodder on Wednesday against Columbus on the road, I think is the answer. I think so. I've coached like a men's recreational baseball team, and the strategy is, you're playing a doubleheader, or you're playing a good team and you're playing a worse team, and you just take a dive for one of the games. You just throw your crap. I don't know if you guys swear. You throw your bad pitchers up front. You're like, well, I'll lose 15-0. I don't care. I just have to keep my resources for the actual winnable game. So between Columbus on the road in their new stadium, and then Montreal, I think is that one a home game on Sunday, or is that also on the road?
It's a home game on the 8th. Yeah.
Then Wednesday, oh boy, I would John Kempin starting first off the bat right there, and then the entire starting 11 from Loudon, just emergency loan the whole of them. Just say, all right, guys, have fun out there, enjoy your first MLS match, and only. That's how I would bankroll this, because Wednesday's going to be real rough.
Yeah, we were already down injuries and red cards now, and yeah, it was interesting to hear Birnbaum talk about the resiliency in the team. But yeah, that's probably the only thing that was on his mind for the past 38 minutes there or so. You see it in other leagues where not normally like in league play, but if there's a Champions League game that they value more, or a midweek cup game, yeah, just run out the B team. And for that,
they have not done that traditionally. So there are options to do emergency loans with your affiliates. Other teams do it pretty frequently. If you look at the Seattle game, where they did that with, I think,
and
three
then
or
won.
four of, and then won, and and most of them played like at least 60 minutes. Based on where Loudon is in the table, that will not be the outcome on Wednesday should they do that. However, if you got to do what you got to do. There really is a shortage. I think that they'd be wise to try to think about, just to make up the numbers. I think that Wednesday is going to be a really tough one. Maybe you give Julian Gressel cramping in this game. You cannot throw him out on Wednesday and Sunday. You cannot do it. Yeah. He is a integral part of being able to create any chances. Without him on the field and without a number 9, you will not be scoring goals at all. I don't think they just will not be occurring. So you've got to be really smart about how you deploy very, very limited resources in the next week.
Yeah, it almost seems like it would be a waste to try to put them out there. And Hernan talked about there were players that played today that weren't 100%. So I'm on the same boat there. I think you just, it's okay if you lose to Columbus away. That's stuff we did.
You don't want to, right?
No,
I mean, in a perfect world, you got to compete every game, but we are not in a perfect world right now. And I want to call out Steve. So Steve, we talked about it at the top. Really, really good performance out of them. Like, they're obviously, Columbus is a bunch of 2 left feet clown forwards a lot of time. They just have a problem scoring goals. However, I mean, there were a couple opportunities that should have been gimmies. Bill either bailed them out. There was a diving tackle for Steve. They put in a great performance, and I think Steve said it after the red card. We're like, a point's fine. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
That's the white flag in the 50th minute against FC Cincinnati is tough to wave. However, in this particular case, I think he looked over at the bench. He saw what we were working with. Let's just take a point and be happy. When other times this season, they should have listened to that internal voice and taken a point and be happy, and they weren't. So I guess that's growth, right?
Yeah, the New York City game screams in my mind. But it's kind of tough looking ahead at these games. These are the games against the middle pack of the Eastern Conference, and we want to be above that playoff line now, and we're right below it. We could have maybe jumped. I think Montreal with the win here today didn't happen for us, but we stayed above Red Bull. But yeah, we this was almost the easier game despite being on the road, and now we've come away not only with only 1 point, but now with a shorter roster. And Hernan even made the joke that he's gonna lace them up and sit on the bench. It's wild.
Here's a question for you: Where's Flores? Is Flores not bench? I understand he's injured, and they said they want to rush him. It's now July 31st. It's going to be August. We got 2 more games this week. Obviously, we are kind of already said Wednesday may be a just, get into your shell and let them whack you with hockey sticks for 90 minutes. But Sunday, he was originally supposed to come back. Obviously, I think he had a setback in training, I think is what the official was. I think I heard last week. But if it's close, I feel like you got to get him in there for 15 minutes. I feel like you have to establish him back in here, unless you really think like the way he got injured was within the first 5 minutes of that game. But it's kind of like go time right now. You're in kind of a crisis situation. I think it's. What do you think about maybe nudging that player along, nudging our designated player along when Paul Arriola continues to be indisposed?
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a point where we got to get him going, and we've been hoping since the beginning of the season. Basically, when we opened the season with a laundry list of players injured, we were like, all right, let's adapt to the style in the first half, and then maybe at the end we can start building something. It'll gel. Players will be healthy, and we're starting to get to maybe the point where that needs to begin to happen. And instead, it seems that we're just going to continue this injury sludge all the way through. I want to see Flores perform. It's the price tag is always in my mind, and it probably shouldn't be, but
can't help it.
You can't.
On a team this budget, on a team this low budget, you can't not think about it. Here's a question for you: if he doesn't turn it around, or if doesn't make himself available, and we sort of just through no fault of coaching and no fault of the players, but mostly just to bad luck injuries, miss the playoffs. We just plow through this August of destruction, getting almost no points, and then we get into the meat of the schedule with a lot of our players back from international duty, maybe some injuries, but don't make it. What do you do with Flores in the offseason? What do you do with Flores in the next window, maybe in the January window? Do you say, all right, this year is the last year? We kind of said it. We said it this year was the last year. Do we say it again? All right, but now for real, this is the last year. Or do you try to recoup some of that $5 million you spent on your transfer fee and just say we didn't work out? It happens all the time. What do you think about that?
I'll answer your previous question. I feel the same way about putting Flores out there that I do Gressel after this game. I think they're valuable players, and they. I know Gressel's good. We've seen that. He started the most games for DC United this year. I don't want to rush Flores back. I'm still holding out, right? I'm still holding out that he's this $5 million player. Matt Doyle loved him when he was with Marty. I can't pronounce it, but the Liga Mega team. They like no longer exist or something crazy. But there was promise there. But you see this across the league everywhere. Miami is dealing with it fourfold because they brought that many in.
Eightfold.
But Pizarro for them has not done what he was brought in to do, and it's you could probably list 20, 30 or more DPs that have come to this league and not performed for whatever reason, and the injuries are unfortunate. Sometimes form is funky and it just doesn't work out. But yeah, I think, oh man, I don't like passing judgment on players like this, especially at this game when we played against a certain player for Cincinnati. But
sure.
Yeah, I think for $5 million, we haven't gotten $1 million worth of value, and the $1 million's in my mind because Lucho was 1.5 when we originally brought him in, and I don't know if we've got a fraction of what we got from Lucho from Flores yet. And I know my co-hosts, if they're listening in, their ears are burning, they're raging because they like.
Listen, I brought the negativity. They asked me on here. I had to make it a little cloudy over here. But go ahead.
We weren't going to get this show with talking about Lucho, and maybe because he's the last kind of style of DP that we've had like that. Wayne Rooney is an exception. That's going to happen once in a blue moon in a league. Yep. It's kind of almost like a dice roll. What team gets that player, generational talent player? But Lucho was our last discovery. I know that's an actual MLS term, but like we discovered this player and paid him money and brought him here, and yeah. And that didn't work out with Lucho long term, but in short term, there was some results, and we haven't got that at all with Flores. And yeah, we might have to start at least seeing what the market is. I don't know. It's tough. Where are you to answer your?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My take on it is that a team like Atlanta can spend $10 million on a DP, have him suck, and then just be like, all right, well, he can go now. He can go wherever. We're going to write it off. It's an expense that we're not really concerned about. DC United, if they can get 25% of the transfer fee back on a player that's not performing, I think you got to take it. You got to put that money back into the system instead of just ride it out and be like, well, maybe he'll come good, and just let him write out his contract. I think Lucho is a good example. Like Lucho was obviously on the fringes at Boca, wasn't really in the starting picture. Bought him younger, less proven, not a national team player, and then he, I think created lots of value for DC United over the years. My co-host Ted would say is incredibly inconsistent and only put together one full season of quality results. If you mash 2 half seasons together to make one season, he had a good one. That's a take you can have, and I don't, that's not wrong per se. But I think this team, there's like a selection bias, right? So you were talking about all of the misses on the DPs over if you look at the league. If you look at even DCs, Marcelo Gallardo, half a season, went back to Argentina because his hamstring hurt and didn't want to come back anymore. Hamdi Salihi, I think, was technically a designated player, or he might have been bought down. Franco Boscovich, bought down, previously a DP. When you hunt the bargain bins and you're looking at players that are want to come into the U.S. but aren't looking to come to New York, L.A., Miami now, sort of the big markets, you're already searching lower down the list. So the chance that you hit is actually, if it works out, that's you used to celebrate because you already were sort of playing with an arm behind your back when you picked the player and you got lucky. So that's the real challenge, right? Like we are not a marquee market. We have not won a trophy since 2013. There's lots of strikes against you. So you're already, you're already really hoping that things work out. You're not spending so much money. that $5 million for us, I believe, is a transfer record for bringing in a player.
Yep.
Most places,
Yeah.
that's not a transfer record. That's not even close, but it is here. So it's a real big challenge that DC has that other clubs that we're trying to compete with don't really have. So, and I really think because of that if you can't get something out of him this season that tells you in this system with his heavy press, with a nine up top that theoretically could finish all the chances that are coming in, if you don't think that's going to be the case, because Hernan's not going to change from that system's going to persist for the rest of Hernan's contract.
And we hope so. We want a system here.
Right. So if that's the case, you got to figure out what you can get for him and then replace him with a player that fits your system. If you think that maybe he doesn't, that's where I'd leave it.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to hear, but it maybe 2 games ago, shows, but also games, Hernan talked about we don't have that DP striker. Like, it's not on the roster, and he's hoping that one comes from the roster, rises from the roster, but that's not happening. And I think, you start looking at the money, and you mentioned Reyna's dollar amount and Flores' transfer fee, and he's also a DP player, so he's also making the dollar amount. And we're just not seeing it. It's super tough. I'm going to open up the call line. I'm scared, but also while we do that, I'm going to ask you. DC United had a first right of refusal in the offseason for Luciano Acosta and chose not to. And it was reported, I believe, that they didn't value him at the number that he wanted. He wanted to be a DP, certainly. Almost deja vu from this contract talks when he left. Do you not, I don't want to say regret, but do you think DC United could have done better there? Should they have, obviously spend more money, but do you think Lucho is worth that DP slot?
If you're not going to use it, sure. And we haven't.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, all that the owners are responsible for is money over the line on a DP, right? And acquisition costs. No acquisition costs to speak of for him coming back from, where was he at? Atlas, yeah. I think it was a very low fee, whatever it was. It wasn't high. So if the answer is DC United's not going to fill that spot this year at all, and they're not going to, and he is a player that loves to press. Say what you want about him otherwise. I think people have said that he gives up a lot and he throws his arms. I think his gesticulating undercuts actually how good of a forward presser he is. And if he has players on both sides of him that are helping him the entire game, what he got frustrated with always for me, I would see him, he would press, he would put a center back under a bad position, and he would be looking for either one of the forwards or the wing backs to come up and help him box the player in, and they wouldn't be there. And he would just be running for no purpose, basically. And then they would just be able to pass the ball out, and he would be like, forget this. Why am I doing this then? What is the point if we're not pressing as a team? So yes, I think it was a mistake. I think this actually a player would have fit really well with the system. He's not been injured for Cincinnati. He's been available. The most important ability is availability. He's been there. And so if you're looking for a team that's trying to create goals, I don't know. It feels like we could have gone this way. I don't know. We would have found a player that would fit better for less money, and we apparently aren't really looking that well. So what do you think?
I think I'll always have a soft spot for Lucho. I think, I don't want to put Ted Lasso spoilers out there into the world, but
episode 2, I don't want to hear it. I haven't listened to it yet.
Okay. But it's tough when any team has like a break, a falling apart with a player. And I think maybe the emotional baggage there probably played a factor. I think if you put, talent-wise, Lucho is a DP level player, and I think we've seen that he's performed in Cincinnati, which is hard to do. And so, if it wasn't a money thing, if we already had Flores, maybe that's a excuses. But I think I would have taken him if I had the chance.
I was always hoping that we were going to use the spot, in which case, keep your powder dry, right? Like, we were thinking, maybe in the winter, like, well, we're going to spend in the summer, right? Like, that's the plan. We're going to make sure that we keep that spot open because we're going to spend, because we brought this new coach in. Yeah. So clearly we've got, and, I'm hoping, the thing you mentioned is already his comment about sort of looking for that finisher to come in, walk in that door or make themselves available on this team. They got to figure out I think I said this on my show. If you got to sell like some of the stuff inside of the Eagle Bank arena, like the lounge, to be able to afford some players, like strip the wood paneling down, sell it on the secondary market. You gotta spend for him this winter.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be another Bulgarian striker that's gonna fit the bill for him. He wants players that he wants.
Yeah.
And so let's hope that I think that they are constrained budgetarily, they're constrained roster spot wise, they're constrained in a lot of ways this summer that they're probably not going to sign anybody. We're just going to gut through this year and figure out how to do it. But boy, they better open up the book in the winter, or else Hernan's going to be pretty spicy when the season starts. I think he's going to a very third year Jose Mourinho vibe is what I would expect to get from him if you're a EPL follower. And the third year, when he doesn't get the players that he wants, he becomes very cranky in press conferences and things start to go, and then he usually gets fired. So let's hope none of that happens and we get some players in for him and for us.
Yeah, I don't want to see that either. I gotta hope that Hernan, Levian, and Rushton are gaming this out, have something, and all two of those three people are very new on the scene. So maybe they are just being smart. And like you said, it's a tough ask to find a player like that who wants to come to DC and is willing to bet on themselves basically to show out in this league. I think the transfer window for MLS closes like this week. So,
next, I think Friday maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So there's not much time. I haven't heard anything. So I wouldn't hold tight for any signings this one. But yeah, I hope he gets the changes he needs. Before we get to gloom and everything, I just want to highlight the best performances of the match. We do this every week. I actually didn't get a chance to look up who DC United awarded to. I'll figure that out for you. But mine
you
is
go first. I'll look it up while we're talking.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. What a great co-host. I'm gonna have
That's
to.
right.
I'm gonna
my keep.
I'm gonna have to nag the other ones. But it's a pretty simple one for me. We normally cheat and give some honorable mentions. Paredes is always great. Appears that he can play both left back and right wing. I think he was playing sometimes today, maybe left wing too. He's awesome. Gressel and him basically drove the game for many stages. But you got to give this one to Bill Hamid for me. It felt like one of those. I said it earlier in the show. It felt like one of those old DC United games where we were not bad, not great, saved by Bill Hamid, and we get a point out of it solely because of him. Some huge saves. And gosh, we just love him. Who you got, John?
Yeah, DC United apparently did not give one out technically on social media, but I think they posted a graphic about Bill with another clean sheet. So I would assume it's going to be Bill if they haven't made it yet, and mine would also be Bill. There's no one else that you'd really want to shout out this whole game. Like you said, this was a situation where one player saved the day for us. It's collective, whatever. Defensive did a good job, but without him, they score one or two. So good job, Bill. Thanks for keeping us in it. Good luck on Wednesday.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough ask for him.
And but before we move on, I just want to say I'm not gloomy about all that. This is not a negative. I would say this is not a negative take on. I think it's important to be realistic about the financial picture and that sort of, and the constraints that the team is put under, due to a bunch of reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like no one likes to just accept those things as like they are, right? It's like, well, I would like to be Atlanta. Well, yeah, so would I. We don't have Arthur Blank as our owner, so that's not going to happen. But I think that there's ways that you can filling all your 3DP slots can be done without breaking the bank. So that's one. I think that's something maybe for next year, probably not this year. And then also making sure that all three of them are producing, and if not, moving them on.
Yeah.
Does Paul want to stay? I think Paul likes it here, right?
Yeah.
But Paul's having a gold cup. Paul's having a gold cup. He's going to be in the final. He's going to have some visibility. He tried Swansea didn't work out for him. Is he interested in staying around this next year, or is he going to say, I would again like to try my luck out? That would be to this team very bad, but also like economically, if you sell him to not yourself, which was what Swansea was, which I did not like because you could never capitalize. You're never going to rob yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the kind of big move a team can make. I think he was a $2.5 million, $3 million signing from Zolos. I think I would have to check that, but it wasn't huge. Certainly worth more than that now, I think, on the open market as an international starter, based on what some of the other players are getting. So all that to say, I'm not. I am not. I'm not down on DC United. I think I'm just realistic about where they find themselves and sort of, what this year is looking like based on just the bodies piling up. The man games lost in all up to August now is absurd.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I like to look at it a realistic point of view too, and yeah, it's maybe tough to swallow, but and there's some pretty harsh. We can sometimes me and us, I try to show, can sometimes be pretty harsh with our constructive criticism, but also acknowledging those things is a credit to the team. The team got a point tonight despite being down 2 men, despite having all these injuries. That they're on the playoff line despite, like I said, this injury thing has gone on all year long, and their biggest DP's not performing. So I think. Look,
the other one's not here. They're hanging in there.
Yeah,
you can't ask any more than hanging in there while your players aren't there. And then when they get back, you have another 7-1 Toronto style whooping, and then you're back to thinking that you're 1 or 2 in the Eastern Conference. That's how it goes. It's the big swings.
Yeah, hoping for that big post or end of the season build that I was talking about earlier. Looking around, Gold Cup final versus Mexico tomorrow, the USBC team. Maybe DC United should take a note from Berhalter there and field a BC team out in midweek against Columbus. But Gold Cup final tomorrow in Vegas. As I said earlier in the show, Jon and Black are on location there. I don't know if they've gotten tickets for the game yet, but they've certainly put some bets down. They lost a lot of money tonight, I think, or at least some money tonight. Betting on
I did too. I've got to retire. It's not going well for me.
I dip my hand in a little bit and then I lose like the $2 that I risked, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what can happen because it seems Mexico is taking this tournament pretty seriously. The United States is doing its best and doing good. I mean, they beat Qatar, the champions of the Asian Conference. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think it can live up to the Nations League final, but
no,
I'll hold out. I'll definitely watch in case. Loudoun played tonight. Unfortunately, they lost to the Switchbacks, which doesn't bode well for our plan to play them midweek against Columbus. But I've been out there a couple times. I know you guys follow them pretty closely. It seems they always play better than the scoreline, and we didn't get to watch because there was an overlap tonight. But I'm assuming that Kudupicho and everyone looked great. Kamari Smith scored that one. Maybe he gets a start midweek.
He's already had one, right? He started out, and I believe was it Colorado, or he started one earlier in the year out west, I think, second or third game of the season. Yeah, Loudoun, man, it'll be good when they are in this MLS development league, and then results really don't matter, right? Like they don't really matter now. They kind of matter because people are buying tickets to go see a team to do well, and they're the dead bottom of all of USL, which is unfortunate if you are a Loudoun United fan and somehow not a DC United fan, like you're just a Loudoun fan. I want to talk to those people. I'm sure they exist. I really want to talk to them. Surely they do exist, but like. Then once that happens, like you're not being like, oh man, they lost again. You're like, all right, let me look at these 11 players who were drafted by DC United, or there are just players right in on the Loudoun team that are never going to play for DC United.
Yeah,
they're just, but that's fine because they're a USL team and they're trying to get points, whatever. But it'll be different when they're the reserve team, and then you're like, I am as a DC United fan fully committed to knowing every one of these players and what's going on with them because the team thinks maybe that. They're a player that could come up at any time, perhaps on a Wednesday game after they have 2 red cards and 13 injuries, they could come in and do a spot start.
Yeah, much I saw, I think midweek or sometime this week you were at the Fred Knots, basically watching the future first team there.
Basically,
it could be
it's pretty soon too, based on how thin they are up top. It's entirely possible.
I had to tease you about that, but yeah, it could be a situation. But hopefully those guys are gaining from these experiences. Hopefully Kamani is able to make the step, and who knows, we might see him Wednesday. Spirit are at Chicago, I think tomorrow at 6.
Playing Chicago for the 37th time so far this season. They need more teams, and it is a bummer to just keep playing. I feel like Chicago and Orlando, they both played 37 times so far this season. So Chicago not played at Segra will be nice because that game was stinky. It's horrible because they just decided that they were going to play narrow and stink it up, and it was a game that was not enjoyable to watch. So I'm glad that they're. Wait, it is on the road, right? It's in Chicago.
I think so. I checked before.
I think it is too. I know I'm not covering it, so it's got to be on the road. So if that's the case, then Bridgeview is fine because it's wide and it's grass, and that's doable.
Yeah, and they will be without a number of stars. I think Ertz, right? It's still with Chicago. Nair. They will be suiting up for the U.S. women's playing for a medal in the Olympics Monday at 4 a.m. So stay up for the Gold Cup Mexico game, and then stay up even more for the women's game. Basically, don't sleep if you're a soccer fan this summer. It's ridiculous. Are you jumping in on this 4 a.m. action?
Oh no, I'm not. No, I no, absolutely not. As a fully gainfully full-time employed person with a small child, that sounds like a horrible idea, and it would wreck me for the entire week. But you young kids that don't have children or have flexible jobs, you should totally do that. 10 years ago, sure.
It hasn't been me. Sam has been jumping out. I've been watching replays, and but
that's fine, right? As long as you avoid Twitter, just do that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. Either way, watch. It's going to be awesome. The women keep winning despite their poor play, so that's enjoyable in that sense. Let's see if they can bring home some hardware. Jon, I want to thank you for jumping on, especially short notice we gave you tonight. You're fantastic. People can find you where and how and when.
Yeah, man. RFKrefugees.com has everything that you need to find, but we have a live show every Monday night at 8:30 on Twitch. We have multiple episodes every week because we're insane. This week we had 3 episodes. We had Dev McTavish on Wednesday and Ashley Sanchez on Friday. So I'm not committed to doing that every single week because I have to, sleep and do other things. But for sure, if you want to watch our show for the first time, if you've never heard us, Monday night, twitch.tv/RFK Refugees. You can watch us live at 8:30 or download us whenever and listen to us whenever you want.
I saw the highlights of the talking about sleeveless jerseys and trying to get people the boot sponsorships. It sounded like good fun. I might have to go back and watch that. But thank you so much again for coming on tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. This has been Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken.